Welcome to the Smite Minor League. Finch here. I'm joined by Ryan Aggro Bailey, and moving into some very exciting matchups here today. The very first one going to be Queso up against Simplicity. So I hope y'all are ready on this Tuesday morning because we got plenty coming your way.
This is a huge matchup because Queso had a pretty good week a couple weeks ago where they looked great, playing some weird stuff up against Out Cold. And then last week, not quite as good up against Flashpoint. Simplicity, on the other hand, has really been rising. They've been looking really good as of late, but they're all chasing Flashpoint right now.
That's right. They're trying to get up towards Flashpoint at the top of the league. You mentioned how Simplicity are rising. Part of that rise was beating Queso the last time they played. It was 2-0 in Simplicity's favor. So if you at least go by that, then certainly this matchup would seem to favor Simplicity. If we take a look at the standings, see exactly where everyone is. It's very close right there in the middle. Flashpoint 4-1 at the top, but Simplicity with that 3-2 over Queso, 2-3, and then Out Cold, who've had some troubles, and surprisingly so down at the bottom.
I would say so. And don't forget, even though it's the top versus the bottom seed in our second set of the day, Flashpoint at 4-1, Out Cold at 1-4. Out Cold is on permanent pop-off alert.
Yes.
I mean, they could really go at any time and just look like the best team in the region again. So I think that this is a big game for Simplicity. If they can win here and then they start rooting for Out Cold a little bit in the second set, then they could make up ground and end up tied for first after today.
I think that they could, and it's good that you point out how strong Out Cold are, because I think that's the only team that Queso's been able to beat this so times. They've beaten Out Cold every time they've met. And it's a credit to Queso because Out Cold could be good at any given moment, right? And you have to make sure that you're playing efficiently, you're playing cleanly. You want to be able to clean those kind of sets up, because that's a team full of players that as soon as you leave open a window, they'll punish you. And no surprise that this Queso team's be able to do it.
I'm just hoping that Queso's able to go a little bit more traditional today. I mean,
you don't want Giannis jungle, or
no, not really. I don't really want Wukong mid. I just want to see, because I think this team is good enough to just straight up beat you at Smite game.
Right.
You don't need to have these really weird compositions in order to win. Can it be better than your traditional composition in certain situations? Absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying that their wins up against Out Cold with their weird comps are worth any less or anything like that. It's just that it seems that this team is really committed to that. And I'd like to see them go a little bit more traditional. Warchi has proven that he can play a lot of mid laners very well. Agni, the Nox we just saw in the highlights, those are picks that he can look very, very comfortable on. And so I think that if we see a return to those sorts of picks in the mid lane, then Queso might have some more success.
Well, I think Out Cold was sort of that team that we were expecting to be the one full of former pros and top-level players that was doing really well. But turns out Simplicity has some of that going their way, too. Maniac on that team and doing quite well. Fails as well. Has looked good and gotten sort of a second life, is what I like to call it, here on this squad. And I think he's shown some of that potential that we always hear about and we didn't always get to see in action. So I am glad that these players get to look good. Obviously, Death Panter playing well, too, was in the SPL in Season 4 and looked very, very strong, clearly above everyone else through all of Season 5. So no surprise he's continuing to do well.
Genetics has looked good in support as well. I mean, this whole team has looked really, really solid so far. And yes, they've beaten Out Cold twice. This Nuwa support, can't say I'm a fan. Don't think it did a whole lot for them, but they still won the game. So what can you really say? I do think the Simplicity team has a chance to usurp Flashpoint as the best team in the region pretty soon, but these are the games you have to win, right? You can't be losing to a team that is still trying to experiment and do a lot of weird things. Queso's a good team, yes, but I do think that Simplicity should be favored here.
If they want to be a top team, then like you said, this is the kind of matchup that you've got to win if you want to be up at the top of and this is the kind of team that I think can do it, right? I'm looking toward this Maniac Julio matchup. The solo lane's been very interesting because teams are letting through King Arthur a lot, and how you respond to it's very important. Are you going to pick Hamazots, or you're going to have a lot of attention over there? So that's one more thing to look at. Are they going to be letting that pick through again? Are they going to be, trying to find some kind of way to beat King Arthur, or are they just going to be banning it out?
Maniac seems to be still a fan of a lot of the Guardians and the Cerberus and the Terra and that kind of stuff. So he will play the King Arthur. He's played it before, but Julio is one of the first that started pulling out that Hamazots and looking really, really good with it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Simplicity themselves are trying to move away from that. Maybe get Death Panther, that Merlin in mid, and leave King Arthur open, or ban it away themselves.
Let's go ahead and move into those picks and bans. And for game number 1, it should be Simplicity as the first pick selection. And that means it's up to Team Queso just how much King Arthur we see truly. As second pick is relegated very often to banning the very best stuff. And first pick gets the option to ban things that are a little bit more team specific. And Giannis coming out might be doing Team Queso a favor, truly.
Could be. I mean, Death Panther plays a lot of Giannis as well. So this is a pick that they're kind of taking away from themselves in a way. But the fact that they pick Giannis and then you don't know where it's going, it does mess with your picks and bans for the rest of the set almost. So I've got no problem with the Giannis ban, especially in first pick where you're trying to throw away a ban anyways so you can get one of those priority gods.
Well, King Arthur ban comes through from Queso, and that's no surprise, truly. There was some chance, that there are some teams coming up with some good answers to it. You sit on him over there, don't let him get comfortable, don't let him get to that late game, but Queso doesn't want none of that this time. Get that guy out of there, and I can't say I disagree.
Now, Freya and Merlin are still on the table, and they'll be in the Hun Bats,
and
so
they gotta
now
do that.
Simplicity is going to be kind of on the fence. Which way do we go? Do we go Merlin or Freya? Do you try and leave both open, get one later on by picking something like Gibalanke right here? I wouldn't do that because you can pick Merlin, Freya, and do both. Naja is another one on the table that we really haven't seen as much of recently.
And I don't understand why. Naja is still just as good as he was before, because the things that Naja does that are really good are the base damage, yes, but it's the control, the sash, the ring bounce, taking someone up out of the air. He's going to do all those things no matter what.
That's right. And losing a little bit of base damage on the ultimate should not have removed this character from competitive play by any means. Susano early on here for Queso. Again, Merlin
and Freya.
Merlin.
Okay, Merlin.
Okay, yeah, Merlin. I like this. I think that Merlin is probably a stronger god than Freya at this point.
Okay.
Freya's good. She's just not pick every game no matter what good. She's really good in situations where you want pressure in your lanes early on. You want to be able to pressure buffs because she still clears the way very, very well. And she still has a great late game. But that mid game, she really dips and feels a lot weaker than she used to. She's definitely a lot less potent than before, and Simplicity not valuing her at all, go for Terra and Hachiman.
Well, then I think Queso have to feel pretty good about how the second part of their ban fees went then, right? Or the first part, because they banned Unbot King Arthur, and they're the ones that come away with what's largely considered that second highest value pick, which is the Merlin in that slot. So I think that you've got to be feeling pretty good. Now, Ja is over there. That is scary, but, I mean, they're still in a great spot.
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, Susano, Merlin, Ram are three carries that can do a lot for you.
Yes.
Susano can absolutely carry from the jungle, and that's what we've seen a lot of from Simplicity so far, is these carry junglers that Fails has done very well with in controlling and making big plays. So taking that away from him makes a lot of sense to me. And you get and Merlin and Ram, those are just two fairly safe selections that can do a lot for you.
And now that you already have Susano, you can continue this war path against junglers that you're working on right now to try and take those away from, I assume, Fails, as they've gotten now the Susano for themselves, and you can ban away the Daji. They already banned Unbot and the Ratatosker. Now that it's becoming a lot more difficult to get one of these top-tier junglers on the side of Simplicity, unless they want to throw Naja over there, it is always an option, but it does just feel so good when you can play him support.
Yeah, I'd assume that this is Naja support, Terra solo still, but I think there's a good chance that you can move Naja into the jungle. Fafnir there, so to make sure that they don't get a double Hunter composition going for Simplicity alongside of Fafnir, which is something they have played recently, as recently as last week, I believe. Now you're looking for some big follow-up, and Poseidon is a great one off of that Naja ultimate. I love Poseidon in conjunction with Terra as well.
Right.
You root them with a massive monolith root that you can't really miss, and then you guarantee Whirlpool. They're already crippled in that spot. I love Simplicity's composition here. I think it's great.
It is strong, but now that we're seeing this come together, then it is starting to look like it is going to be the Naja support that we thought, right? Because Mercury is almost certainly going to be going into the jungle. And it's crazy that you can ban out Unbots, Daji, Ratatosker, and pick Susano for yourself, and still a god like Mercury is chilling on the board, who can feel very comfortable building out of that blade tree.
Oh, easily. I think Mercury's in a really good spot to make plays this game. I love the Bellona pick, though. That disarm
good answer.
Going to really hurt him a lot in some of these team fights. I like both compositions, honestly. I really do. I just think that Simplicity's works together just a little bit better.
There's a good chance. Team Queso's looks just as good, though, so we'll certainly have to see once they get into the game which one of these are the ones that are going to come out on top. Queso going up against Simplicity, the unfettered genius of Aqua Jackal up against the raw mechanical skill of Simplicity. Let's get going.
Wow, that was one hell of an intro, Toli. Can we stand up to the test?
I don't know. It is Season 6, week number 6 of day number 2 of this Smite Minor League, where we're going into game number 1 of this best-of-3 set. Simplicity up against Team Queso. On your blue side, we got Maniac and the solo... Okay, I'm going to stop.
You really want to do it?
It's a long intro. I don't know how Bart did it all the time.
No, it's really not that bad. On the left side of your spectator UI, in the blue trunks is Simplicity, represented by Maniac in the solo lane. Fails in the jungle. Deathpanner, Genetics, and Streak Up went across the way. Team Queso making their entrance to the left side lane. Chekio already in trouble. Here's the dash forward. Streak Up, Streak Down. Team Queso in the red trunks, surging forward, ripping through. That's going to be first blood.
Okay. Great impersonation there. Julio with a sick gank. I love the fact that he got a shield bash, and that needed to be a sprint on top of Draco Marino. But unfortunately for Genetics, because he's the Naja support, he's thinking offensively. So he's going for the horrific emblem. There was no real way to disengage, considering that the sprint negates the full effects of any slow, including the horrific emblem relic.
Nice job by Team Queso, and to really go with it, you know. Looking at the start, again, Alpha Jackal bringing in some interesting strategy. Julio coming over here from the solo lane and then teleporting back after grabbing first blood. Very interesting look, and certainly something that's going to catapult Queso. They're about five, you know, a little bit more than just the first blood bounty up right now, so certainly something to look at. And
that's also a good start for Julio, considering he's going to get some stacks of his Warrior's Blessing for that kill in general. So against a passive Maniac Terra, you're looking at more protections now to be able to really start being a bully. As if Bologna wasn't a lane bully by itself. Let's give Julio first blood and just the ability to do this. Make Maniac sit at less than half health already, not even 2 minutes in.
Oof, yeah, a little bit rough there for the Portuguese powerhouse, stuck underneath the tower. We'll see how he'll be able to do against Julio, the artist formerly known as Julio 69. Right now, Team Queso has been very interesting. They were some of the first players to unleash the Camazotz tech versus King Arthur. Very interesting starts in the jungle last week, and here we're seeing again interesting starts, being very innovative. I think it's really interesting because Alpha Jackal, of course, has been a pro league coach for a number of years, and then we see Team Queso, who have sort of teetered on that professional level play, and I think that both parties really have an opportunity to like kind of test some crazy stuff without really getting harshly judged. And I like this experimental, this rapture, if you will, this experimental area.
There's a lot of phases in the Smite competitive scene that you have to check off in terms of getting an edge over your opponent. The first thing that comes to mind is picks and bans, right? The second is your opening starts of like, where is everyone positioning, how you're looking to gank. So crossing that off the list, Julio with a nice rotation in that dual lane, similar to how Splice did it at Worlds in that little 3-on-2. Then you got to worry about what you're building, what relics you're choosing, how you're going to be able to war throughout the map and use that vision as intel, and also your objective control. Like, do you have a composition that's going to be able to burn towers, burn Gold Furies, get those Fire Giants, and then at the end of the day, you have to also cover how successful are we in terms of sieging Phoenixes, or how successful are we going to be at defending those Phoenix Sieges if we get behind?
And that's all the X's and O's. Don't forget, you actually have to hit your abilities. You got to hit your stuff. That's a really big deal when talking about it. Which is, I mean, yes, exactly. But I mean, that's the interesting part when you look at the whole picture, right? Is because you can be the best coach on the planet. You can be Hindu Man and get anybody to Worlds, right? But then can you actually hit your abilities?
That's true.
And that is you could have the best draft, the best strategy, the best opening, and whiff everything, and you will lose to the worst team on the block. And I think that is honestly, totally, that's why I love the game.
Yeah.
that really is it.
The outplay potential is what also got me into Smite way back in 2012. The ability to juke is just underappreciated.
Ain't no auto attack here
at the casual level in terms of being able to juke it out here. And this is important against gods like Naja, for example. You have to be able to read the opponent, not just the god itself, but the tendencies of your opponent. And I think that's what Queso did against Genetics. I think they knew going into this game that Genetics was going to start that horrific emblem. So that sprint and the Julio gank combination was just perfectly planned and even more perfectly executed.
Yeah, it's very funny. I always say I juke on a competitive level. If you ever watch me stream, I can juke on a competitive level. I can't necessarily hit my abilities or think in the moment or have a competitive mindset or play well at all. But you can't hit me, and that makes me feel good.
It's the fight or flight situation, right? When you're running away, you're going to do everything in your power to run away. So you got this adrenaline, you got just all these endorphins running through you, and you're looking for ways to get away. So I don't blame you about reaching those levels.
Right now, Team Queso a little bit quiet since they made their first mark on the left side. But that said, they've slowly built this lead up, and a lot of that has to do with just their jungle efficiency. You know, 1,600 is not what you get for first blood. They've added 1,000 and then some on top of that prize. And now Fail is trying to sniff over here on the left side lane, but his Hunter's so far pushed up, and he'll go underneath the tower with the Merc ult, and Chekio just sort of slide to the left.
I like what Chekio was doing there. Playing the ROM, you don't really need to be aggressive this early in the game, especially before you have any lifesteals. So just sit under your tower, get the guaranteed farm, respect the global pressure of the Sonic Boom. And whenever the Mercury is charging from the opposite end of that duo wave, you can kind of see this shimmering glow all the way down the lane. And I think that's why Chekio was able to juke that at the last possible moment.
Yeah, you got to be behind the tower if you really want to hide that. It's pretty nuts, but... Here's the solo lane matchup you were talking about. Maniac with the purple boots. Is that standard?
I would say so. There's going to be a lot of ticks when you pop the monolith as well, so that penetration will go a long way, especially when you're looking for burst damage from your Earth and Fury. I wouldn't be surprised also if Maniac's next damage item, not right away immediately after the boots, but later down the game, is going to be the Soul Reaver. Every other item is probably going to be a mix of either pure defense or hybrids such as Voidstone.
Yeah, we've seen the Soul Reaver Terra is honestly what brought Terra back into the solo lane once upon a time, and it's been changed since. Still a powerful choice, but certainly a little bit nuts. Genetic, able to get on out of there. Playing with fire as he gets closer to the Warchi Whirlwind.
I like that fact that Warchi used his beads there. Despite the defensive ultimate from Genetics, I think that Warchi thought, okay, well, Genetics is going to use his ultimate, and he was worried that the target selection was going to be actually Merlin into the Kraken, and that would have been spelling lights out for this Merlin.
And that goes to what you were talking about understanding and guessing what your opponent's doing, trying to read your opponent right there. Yeah, the beads are down, and now Simplicity will look to punish that. Fails. Actually, the one getting punished here. But realistically speaking, Team Queso is... that's the right thought process. Now, like I said, Warchi is totally able to be punished right now, but I'm there with you. He was trying to read. And the red buff...
Nice invade.
Already down.
Nice invade from Warchi and Draco Marino, really taking advantage of that little 1v1 on the right side scuffle. Yeah. It doesn't really amount to a kill, but when you're able to create that space in the control, or even the distraction of like everyone from Simplicity is like, uh-oh, do we have to save Fails? What's going on? Meanwhile, Queso's like, don't look over here, guys, but your red buff's gone.
Yeah, for real. A little bit rough there. Back into the jungle they will go. No big deal. Julio versus Maniac. That sound of the bat on this
I
game,
love that skin.
It's very funny.
Yeah. It's one of my favorites, actually. Just because of that. The shield bash is actually one of the least used, I would say, of the three.
Yeah.
But, like, that's probably the most effective one in terms of a team fight. You want to be able to stick on Fails, for example, late game of Mercury, reflecting his basic attacks or even part of his basic attacks right back at him, a squishy assassin. Julio should be having a relatively easy time against this late game hyper carry Mercury.
Bellona's an interesting choice and one of your favorites. What really makes her shine right now?
She's just safe standard. You can't really go wrong. You don't lose laning phase ever. You can hardly ever lose your blue buff. You don't even need blue buff, honestly. So even if you do lose it, you're fine there. And 9 times out of 10, any side of poke is going to get out-sustained with your Scourge in terms of hitting the God, hitting the minions, or even hitting now in Season 6 the Totem of Ku.
And you've got the Zerker shield as well to really assist that. Just a lot of things lining up. Because when we were looking at some of the other choices of character, mainly Kurnos, right? Sometimes characters come in and out of the meta because of the itemization currently, right? So when we look at some of the hunters, it's about itemization. When we look at some of the other choices in solo, it's excuse me, about the map change. Totem of Ku has forced some extra aggressive picks over there in the solo lane. So Bellona kind of this happy mishmash of all of the above. Some nice itemization for her, nice meta with respect to the other selections in the game, and then of course the map change as well, allowing her to be a little more aggressive.
And I didn't even mention the 75-second CC immune ultimate that she gets, which it does a lot of damage and provides a lot of auras.
Nice beats from Warchi. Genetics. It's a little bit too quick on the trigger. Let me, I don't mean to... She's not CC immune for 75 seconds.
No,
it's on a 75-second cooldown. I just want to make sure that everybody has that straight up, because
definitely not.
Imagine a character CC immune for 75 seconds at a time.
As long as he moves at 1 movement speed and can kill you as soon as he touches you.
Okay.
blob.
I know, totally. Aggro's going to beat you up.
No, he's not.
That's Aggro's.
I'm not saying it's my idea.
That's what you just said. You said
No.
it was your idea.
I did not say it was my idea.
I heard
I
you
said,
say it was your
what
idea.
if?
Totally.
That's all. Credit goes to Aggro. Aggro has a great idea, actually. I like it. We
Aggro-
should implement it.
Aggro rarely has a great idea. Don't give him props.
Sometimes he hits. You know?
All right, Totally going to be
Hit or
nice
miss.
today. Totally going to be nice.
I
I'll
guess
be
I never
nice.
miss.
I saw what you were going for. Okay. Just like we broke down the multiple reasons as to why Bologna is good in lane right now, let me break
Sure.
down the multiple reasons why that was a poor joke.
Okay, let's go.
One, the timing has passed. I mean, that TikTok or that joke that's just not relevant right now. Two, it took you way too long to get there, Jolie. Come on now. You're better than this.
It's build up. It's all about just, slowly smelling it in the air first. When you're cooking things, right?
Okay.
How do you taste the food first? By smelling
With my
it.
mouth.
No. You smell the food first.
That's
So I'm just letting the aroma build up.
genetics. Genetics uses the old, I need to get out of here. Genetics needs to get out of here. Mercury needs to get out of here, but it's genetics that's going to fall down first. Death Panda right
Nice
after
blink.
the fact with a nice shot from Chekio long range. That said, the enemy hunter answers back, but Chekio on the good side of a double kill. 3 for 1. Warchi collapses as the rest of his team cleans up mid and the duo lane. Now looking for more as fails, but he's got help from Draco Marino. A dash to safety. Not good enough as Maniac finds the pillar explosion.
Oh, no.
Down goes the character.
Julio missing the Eagles rally, but it
Too
doesn't
long.
matter because Worst Turtle was able to come back from the fountain with the wind siphon. So at the end of the day, that was a 4 for 2 after all the revives. Queso with still a good advantage. You're not going to be able to go for the Gold Fury quite yet with Chekio still dead, but that team fight couldn't have really gotten any better for them.
I think it took Simplicity a little bit too long to really get that kill, and that's why Worst Turtle was able to really come back. I would have liked to see Simplicity, kind of get out of there a little bit quicker.
The problem for Simplicity is that Genetics is constantly getting targeted and isolated before the real team fight happens.
Yeah.
And with him forced to using his ultimate defensively yet again, the rest of the team fight,
They don't
Queso
know.
just groups up together.
Oh, they know. Draco Marino and Warchi blink over. The Kraken comes out as the Gold Fury is leashed. And now Warchi and Draco will pick this up. This could be problems. There's a Whirlpool dragged out of it. In the Blizzard is good. Damage still going to be left alone. Death Banner flames taking him down. He'll be one hit away from death. Meanwhile, Genetics will also be one hit away from death. There's the Whirlwind. And Genetics falls down. Team Queso picks up the Gold Fury one more time. And what a sequence.
Wow.
That was really impressive by Team Queso.
Huge miscommunication between Simplicity. Obviously, Genetics wanted to disengage, but Death Panther had other intentions. He has the Kraken. He wanted to be able to use it. Who's right or who's wrong is not for me to say, but I think that needed to be on the same page. It allows Queso to force the reset rather, poke out Death Panther to get him out of there, allows the rest of Queso to actually get in position to either contest this Gold Fury or do it for themselves. Now they're getting rewarded with 3 objectives between the Gold Fury, Tier 1 Mid-Tower, and now the Pyromancer.
I actually think it's interesting. I think Genetics made the right call. I think the call was to get off of the Gold Fury. I think that was the correct call. But with that said, again, sort of like you were getting at, everybody needs to follow the call. 5 players following the wrong call will oftentimes result in a better scenario than just trying to big brain it and saying, well, I'm smarter than you, you should have did what I said.
Yeah.
Because this is what happens. Tier 1, Pyro, Gold, and it all starts to spiral out of control. All of a sudden, Team Queso up 6,000, and you're sitting here like, wait a second. They got First Blood and maybe 2 or 3 red buff invades. How are they up 6,300?
And honestly, there is a world where Simplicity does get the Gold Fury, but Genetics would have to tank it for a little bit longer, and that would have forced another team fight for Queso where they would have killed Genetics, killed Death Panther, and still gotten the mid tower and the Pyromancer and the solo tower. So
Exactly.
I think it's better to be safe than sorry, so the reset needed to happen just to allow Simplicity to get back into this game.
Right now, Team Queso certainly keeping them on the outskirts. This could be trouble for Draco Marino. He's definitely, well, pretty tanky actually at this point. A level above the mid laner is Team Queso's support. He's got the Shoguns. He's got the Shoguns. Nice and early he's got the Shoguns, actually. Interesting approach.
This is a position for Queso and Draco Marino. When you're ahead, you can almost build anything that you want, and it's going to get to a slippery slope. But it makes a lot of sense and merit to go for Shoguns, especially on the Fafnir, because Chekio is hitting a sick power
That's
curve.
true, actually.
He got his Aussie instead of Devo Glove, so he wants to hit as hard as possible, doesn't want to wait for those stacks, and then Executioner. These 3 items alone, Chekio is going to actually starting to blow up Maniac and Genetics. That doesn't even have physical protection actually in his build yet.
Yeah, not quite yet. Genetics just with the health from the Shield of Regrowth, no protections on that. And building into the Shillelagh, that should be just more health as well. Probably a Blackthorn Hammer.
Yeah.
And that's not going to help him out as far as the protections are concerned. And that means I'm concerned. Streak Up's not a concern in the world as he gets up on the horse and able to just ride on through. And the Tier 1 tower on the left side now will be threatened, and much more than threatened, actually taken.
Okay, so actually going to continue this pressure onto the Tier 2 tower. Both soul laners still preoccupied in the mid lane, so a straight up 4-on-4, but keep in mind that Streak Up had to use the mounted archery, so without that ultimate, a little bit of AoE damage has been removed from Simplicity as both soul laners now looking to regroup on the left.
Team Queso right now playing for a pick. They're going to go into this jungle and just see who trickles out. Simplicity, to their credit, played very correctly. Maniac ahead of the team, making sure to stay in line. Listen, Team Queso, we don't want to come behind us and flank, so somebody has to be there. But Maniac, one of the tankier options, so that should he be caught out of position, Queso can't really punish too hard.
I like Warchi's Divine Ruin here, 3rd item. This is the point where Maniac and Julio is going to make these rotations. That Earth and Fury and the Monolith healing could be an issue, and with how much space control a Merlin has, it's not difficult to apply the Divine Ruin stacks whatsoever.
Yeah, you've got a lot of abilities, you've got a lot of, like you said, space control, a lot of AoE abilities that are going to really hit for a number of times. So I do like that option as well. Very European style to build the anti-heal early and often. Terra's a character that I feel like you can overlook her healing sometimes, especially in the early and mid game. You go, well, she doesn't really do anything. Healing for 300 is negligible.
Yes.
But it feels like in the middle of a team fight when that ultimate is popped. The thing with Terra is that her numbers will never impress you with total amount of healing done, but all of that healing is generally burst healing and exactly when you need it because of the ultimate.
It's like a slow building roller coaster of healing where it starts off very low and then it just skyrockets. Yeah, but then it stays up there instead of going back down.
So it's just,
It goes up and then it goes like sideways, like a crazy circle.
like a corkscrew?
Yeah. You don't want...
I don't know if that's true, Totally. Is it corkscrew?
Yeah, but like a corkscrew that just keeps going up.
All right, I'm with it. Stairway to Heaven. Simplicity lining up. Look at Fails right here, trying to time his ultimate for the Gold Fury. Perfectly leashed by Queso. Now looking for the team fight. Maniac knocked up. Flames are cutting him in half. And Julio finds the last hit. 300. Bang, bang. Uses the ultimate on top of Death Panner. Chekio waiting out the Aegis. Shots from above. Number 8 for Team Queso. They're going to look for the Gold Fury after this. And Simplicity walk away. It's now a big boy lead for the Cheese Monsters. Almost 10,000 gold.
The bait and switch, being able to reset it at the last second. The ultimate from Fails, not as impactful. Maniac, not as tanky as he would hope to be at this stage of the game. The raw damage from Chekio with the chin size now on top of his Executioner doesn't give any sort of freedom for Maniac to be that backline penetrator that Simplicity need him to be. And also, keep in mind, Julio was doing a good job zoning for the longest time. There is no world where Death Panner even comes close to that objective to go for the Kraken.
So 20 minutes in here, folks. We've got Team Queso leading by almost 9,000 at this point. A fantastic game from them so far. Started at first blood on the duo lane and just continued from there. Both picked at Simplicity's mistakes and have created windows of opportunities for themselves. This is just a very good team. And we've watched them, formerly known as the Poppies, mainly Spanish-speaking. We've kind of watched these guys ascend through the ranks over time, Anatoly, and seeing them here, I think this is the best they've ever looked.
This is a clean performance from Queso for sure. Even their 2 deaths, they were able to get something out of it. The death from Warchi, get them 3 kills, and then afterwards, just more pressure on the sides of the map. The farming has been spectacular. It's started off with the Julio rotation and the ability to read the opening from the aggressive genetics on the Najah, and it hasn't slowed down as already Queso are looking for a 21-minute Fire Giant.
Well, here comes Fails, and he could steal it a little bit early, though. And Queso confirm the Fire Giant. Now Checkio from a distance, trying to find the shots. Fails out of range. And Team Queso push forward. Terra Ultimate will dissipate. And Team Queso will look to return back to base, spend some gold, and then return to the battlefield.
One of the most unfortunate feelings in all of Smite in terms of contesting Fire Giant is getting CC'd right at the outer ring, and that's exactly what Draco Marino did onto Fail, stunning him as the Ring of Fire came out. There was nothing that Simplicity could do except in terms of all-in commit. They would have to use the Sonic Boom, they would have to be able to get Genetics in position with the Blink ultimate, but at this point in the game, Tom, being down 10,000 gold, it is not easy. Easier said than done, rather.
I mean, hey, Draco Marino, he's got a golden eye.
Does he?
Yeah. He CC'd that player right on the outskirts, right? Real good. You should call him tomorrow because he never dies.
There might be a death on the left side, but it might not be on Genetics' target. It might be Genetics himself. Checkio actually decimating him. Worst Turtle waiting it out at the last second. Great mechanics.
Worst Turtle with the double kill as he cuts down Fails as well. The tier 2 tower in trouble. By the way, Julio is beating up Death Panner in his own base.
Forcing out the Kraken defensively. He's like, hey, stop chasing me, please.
We're in your base killing your dudes, man. That's just how this game is going. Maniac trying to do what he can. The Phoenix already down to 90%. Streak up. 1, 2. Aegis is too strong. Queso now threatening the Titan. I'm not sure about that one, boys. And they'll back off.
Still 2 more towers remaining out of Simplicity, so it's the Titan not at its most vulnerable form, but a little bit of a bait. Ooh.
A little bit too early.
Close
I was all there for it. Maniac's gonna get looped back on.
All right, he's fine.
Yeah, no big deal.
But this right side tower, definitely not fine. I think that it's going to be easy pickings for Queso now with their Fire Giant buff still around their waist for about another minute or so to get this tower. But Maniac, he's not done yet. Alongside Fails, they're going right onto Checkio.
Yeah, the backline carry is in some sort of trouble, but tell from the tone of my voice, I'm not too concerned. He's come out on top. His mid laner comes out on top. His jungler comes out on top. And his solo laner is 2v1ing. Streak up goes down. The Fromagers are looking fantastic. And the right side Phoenix is in their sights.
Oh, nice stun from Draco Marino right on top of Genetics. And with him dead, it's only Fails left to play defense. And a lowly Mercury shouldn't be enough to stop the rampage out of Queso.
Not at all. 23 minutes, 14 kills to 2. And it's all dairy here. Team Queso coming up clean in 23 minutes as they take down Simplicity.
Team composition, check. Opening start, check. Objective control, everything was just A-okay coming out of Queso.
Real well played here. I think that, like you said, everything kind of just came together. Even when Simplicity made some mistakes, they were able to chip away at those situations and then make situations in their own right as well. Team Queso looks fantastic. Let's take a deeper look on the desk.
And we're looking fantastic on the desk here too, Tom. Don't get it twisted. Finch and Ryan here. We try and break down a nice Team Queso victory. And Ryan, what was it that stood out for you in this one? Because it really felt like, to me, Team Queso were at least comfortable the entire game, if not in control.
Yeah, the early start that gets Julio the first blood gives him a lot of pressure in that solo lane. And then Worst Turtle on the Susano was just able to control the entirety of the team fights. Every single team fight, it was Worst Turtle doing a lot alongside Julio. Even look at that last little ending fight there where it's those two really working in tandem to fend off the majority of Simplicity. Just a good team effort here by Team Queso. In the duo lane did what they needed to do. Honestly, the pick that did the least in this game, I'd say, was Warchi's Merlin.
I think so too.
and that's the premier pick, right? I mean, that's the one that you're most worried about. Not that Warchi did poorly by any stretch. He just didn't need to do a whole lot because the rest of the team was doing so much.
And for me, I wonder how much of it was genetics on this Najah. The pick is good, and I don't even know if he necessarily played it poorly. But when your team does end up a little bit behind, that Najah support can get kind of punished.
Yes.
Because it's not going to be as tanky as a normal Guardian would be in that role, or even a Warrior, and you're building into that tankiness, yes. But I mean, you can even see it there. The 4 deaths for him, it's your support that ends up happening too oftentimes. I just think maybe when they started to fall behind, it was Genetics that got punished.
Absolutely, and Death Panther on this Poseidon did very, very little in this game.
Yes.
I mean, he was bottom of the player damage overall in the entire game. Had the Kraken that right as Gold Fury gets leashed, he uses the Kraken and hits nothing.
That was unfortunate, yeah.
Just not a great game for Death Panther on this Poseidon.
Yeah, well, definitely didn't quite go their way. And so now you have some questions, right? Because I really do think that part of it is that Queso just kind of won the drafting phase, too, like the picks and bans phase, at least from what I was looking at, with the way that they played the second position. They got the Merlin on their side,
Sure.
and it really, like, they had a composition that made some sense to me. I think that the Fafnir pick was really smart coming towards the end of the draft as well. So a lot of that stuff went well for them. Now Simplicity kind of have to go back to the drawing board and say, was it a mistake for us in picks and bans? Was it execution in game? Where do we need to try and, make some adjustments?
I think it was purely in-game execution for Simplicity that sent them astray in this game, because I really liked their draft going into this game. I think that it worked pretty well together. I think that just the fact that Death Panther fell behind pretty early on alongside Genetics, Genetics builds literally no protection all game long. It's just raw HP, and when you start falling behind,
right,
they'll be able to chew through that pretty easily. I think that Simplicity is still okay in this set. They just need to work on their in-game execution a little bit more so than the picks and bans.